Let's talk about how you can write a good personal statement so that you can get accepted into PA school this cycle. So the structure of your essay is going to follow this format. You're going to need a personalized theme that's going to convey some messages about who you are as a unique person and how this kind of wraps up your whole journey into becoming a PA. With that, you're secondly going to need a strong hook, of course, in your introduction. Then of course, we're going to talk about your introduction into the PA profession and why you chose to be a PA. From there, you'll talk about a couple of experiences you've had in medicine or maybe outside of medicine, which helped you decide that you want to be a PA. And these experiences will demonstrate some skills and character traits along with this story. Then with those experiences, before your conclusion, you should write about what makes you different. Then we'll wrap up with a strong conclusion, which will wrap up the theme, wrap up your entire journey into becoming a PA, and we'll do the final solid pitch, which will make the admissions committee want to bring you in for an interview. So that's the basic format, but let's get into some more details on this overall structure. So a hook is pretty straightforward. You want to write a good hook that's going to draw the reader in. And how you're going to do this is, of course, this ties in with the theme. So your whole introduction is going to be kind of, you're starting out your theme, you're kind of narrating what's going on, and of course you're going to relate that to how, your entire journey into becoming a PA and how you're introduced to the PA profession. But overall, your introduction, your hook, is a little bit more narrative, a little bit more descriptive, it's a little bit more vivid. So in your hook, you're going to want to employ those kind of writing elements so that it kind of piques the interest of the reader, it draws their attention in, and it gets them kind of a little bit more excited to read your essay. So make it something personal. I know a lot of people write about, dance, or they write about how they were a pilot, or for me, for example, I wrote about, of course, training, how I had an obstacle when I was trying to hit a deadlift PR, a personal record, when I was trying to lift a lot of weight. And that was kind of the overall theme of my paper, and that was the hook, was how I went to attempt this PR of lifting 585 pounds, I believe I wrote, and how I failed, and how that kind of related to how I didn't get into PA school my first 2 times, so on and so forth. So that was my hook, and how I related my hook and my theme together to smoothly transition into my PA journey. Was I talked about how I attempted this deadlift PR and I failed, similarly to how I applied to PA school my first couple times and I failed, and then that went into my PA journey of how I didn't give up on my deadlift PR, how I retrained again for a year and did all this other stuff with my coach and stuff, and just like how for PA school I didn't get in the first time, so I had to gain more experience and do better in school for the year and then reapply again. And that was kind of the overall theme of how I was a reapplicant. So from there, we're going to talk about your introduction into the PA profession, why you specifically want to be a PA. Because I've seen a lot of essays that I've helped edit for friends, or that people have reached out to me, either email or like Facebook Messenger, how I kind of read their essay and kind of helped them out, where the essay doesn't say anything about how they want to be a PA. It's just kind of general medicine. They want to do medicine and healthcare. And so when I'm reading it, and I imagine when admissions people are reading it, there's no really difference between you want to be a PA versus a nurse versus a doctor versus a nurse practitioner versus a physical therapist. The overall thing is, I want to help people, and do medicine and science is cool. But the admissions committee is looking for someone who not only likes medicine and science school and all that extra stuff, but they're looking for someone who understands the PA profession and what they're getting into, and so you need to write about that in your essay. So that doesn't mean you need to give a textbook definition of what a PA is and how you like that, or you don't need to write about how PA school is shorter and that's why you want to be a PA. That's bad. You want to do good things. For example, I wrote about how I like the lateral mobility of the PA profession, how I'm able to transition to different fields of medicine, of practice, and how I think that's really cool and interesting, how the things I learned from those different fields can kind of all accumulate together into me just being a stronger overall provider. And I related that to my current experience as an EMT and being a physical therapy aide and having my strong exercise background, and how that kind of helps me be a good EMT, to where I have a lot of knowledge about anatomical injuries and physiological injuries, and how those things kind of relate together in the emergency setting, and with that knowledge, how I can help provide my medical team to provide better care, because I'm drawing from these different experiences, these different fields I worked in, to the emergency setting to help us, like I said, provide the utmost care, whether it be translating some information to a fellow EMT, a fellow tech, or to one of the providers, or just to anyone, just pitching in my, if they're not strong in that kind of field, in orthopedics or, like sports injury, I know that, and I can, throw the idea out there, throw what I know out there, and just see if it sticks with the MP, the PA, doctor, whoever I'm working with, and then just to help out the most I can. So that's why I wrote about why I wanted to be a PA specifically. There's a couple other things, but I'm not here to restate my entire personal statement. That will be a different video. Right now we're just talking about how you can write your personal statement to be amazing. This is the overall structure, and we're gonna talk about some don'ts later on in the video. So the next step is you're gonna wanna write about a couple of experiences that have led you to wanting to be a PA. And from these experiences, they could be medical or not, but you want these experiences to show character traits and show skills you have. You don't wanna just tell the writer you're a hard worker, you're dedicated, and you're smart, and you know how to do CPR. Because anyone can say that, and it's very boring, it's very cliche. You wanna show them, you want to demonstrate that you have these character traits, that you are a hard worker, you are dedicated, you are smart, and you want to demonstrate your skills, like you know how to do CPR. You don't want to just say it. So with that, you want to write a couple of experiences demonstrating these most important skills, which make you a little bit different, and which will help you be an amazing PA, and which prepare you for a PA school overall. Then with those experiences, before your conclusion, you should write about what makes you different. So what do you bring to medicine that's different? What do you bring to your program that you're going into that's different? What makes you just different as a person, as a provider, etc.? How will you help expand access to patient care, or just enhance the overall quality of patient care? So in my paper, I wrote about what makes me different is how I wanted to be an advocate for like men in medicine, and like, young men, young boys, older men, etc. Because a lot of men have in my personal experience from my friends, my family, and even myself, we kind of have a hard time going to the doctor or like getting help because of preconceived notions about medicine, or just like taking advice from people in general. But most importantly, how a lot of men think that medicine is something that's kind of female-oriented, dominated, and even though statistically it kind of is, but that doesn't mean that it is exclusively only a female field to work in. We need females and males of all, different backgrounds and sexes and stuff to work in medicine to deliver the best care for everyone. Because I know a lot of guys out there, a lot of my good friends who could be, amazing doctors or amazing PAs or NPs or nurses or whatever, but there's this stigma that it's emasculating to enter medicine because it's so, caring and nurturing, etc. And it's not something that's very masculine and dominant. Finally, the conclusion. You want your conclusion, of course, with everything else to be very strong and to wrap up everything you're talking about. And this will kind of include the theme you're talking about as well. Your theme will wrap up and summarize everything you're talking about related to, you personally, with your story. Again, I talked about fitness, and I wrapped up how I eventually overcame this PR and I was able to deadlift 585, similarly to how this year when I'm applying, I will be accepted, and how all the different things I had to do to increase my PR, how that related to the different experiences I had into wanting to be a PA, and which led me to be a PA and kind of made me ready to be a PA and succeed in PA school. So the conclusion and the theme and the experiences, everything I talked about, all wrapped up. The theme helped that. It was like the bow tie, it was the box that I'll put it into, and gave it to the admissions committee for them to open up, so that when they got to the end, they're like, wow, this is amazing, this guy is badass, and we're gonna take him into our program. So that's a rundown of how you can write a really good essay to get accepted into PA school. But we're gonna be talking about some common mistakes and the big don'ts that you want to avoid when you are writing your essay. So first things first, do not dwell on the negatives. My first couple times applying, my first couple essays, I always wrote about how I had one really bad semester. My first year at university, I failed multiple classes. My GPA just plummeted, it was horrible. And I had to, use my essay as an opportunity to explain that, and how I turned that around the following semesters, and how I skyrocketed my GPA back up and I got involved in all these clubs and I got these jobs and all these different experiences. But you want to avoid that in your personal statement, because trust me, they see your entire Caspa application and they can see that you turned around in your GPA. You had a little hiccup right there. So you can save the negatives for secondary applications and supplemental questions that they ask you within Caspa. You can kind of explain that. But most importantly, you can also talk about that in the interview, because they will always ask you, about bad grades during your interview, because I always wrote about my bad grades and how I overcame that in my Caspa personal statement. But every time I went to the interviews, they always brought up, explain to us why you failed these classes or you got a bad grade in this class, as if like, yeah, I wrote about that in my personal statement, and you should read that. Didn't someone write down a note and then they sent that to you so that you can see that? There's so many different people looking at your personal statement that not everyone is like sharing these notes, and it's not as intricate as you might believe. At least that's how it's come off to me, and that's how a couple of people I know on admissions committees and PAs and stuff like that have shared with me. So don't even write about the negatives, because if it's that pertinent, they will ask you in the interview. If you failed the class or something like that, they will ask you in the interview anyways. So you can answer it there. If you really want to write about it, like I said, you can talk about that in the secondaries or the supplemental questions that they'll ask in Caspa or in the secondary application. And secondly, you don't want to be too narrative. This isn't a novel. You don't want to describe the beautiful night stars and how you were laying down in the grass and the wind was blowing through your hair and you saw a shooting star and how you had an epiphany about, oh my God, I want to be a PA now because I saw that shooting star, and it just made me realize how short life is and how, we're all just stardust, and I just want to help out everyone else to be the best stardust they can be. It's not a book, so you want to limit the narration just to your introduction for that hook, but everything else, you want to keep this personal and you want to keep it factual, and you want to hit these points that the admissions committee is looking for. Plus, you only have so many characters, so you don't want to really waste that on overly describing a graphic scene that you had while working on the ambulance, or a graphic scene when you were in class and you were sweating and your calculator wasn't working, you broke your pencil, and etc. Just get to the point. You only have so many characters, they're reading thousands of papers of personal statements. Get to the point, save the narration for the hook, because that will pique their interest, that'll kind of awaken their brain for what you're saying. It'll prime them so that when you start hitting these points of why you'd be good for their program, they are primed, ready to absorb that information. So get to the point, don't be too narrative. Another thing is you don't want to be the hero or the victim. Don't write about how you already know it all, you've already saved lives, and now you're just gonna move up to be a PA so you can save more lives because you were so awesome as a scribe and you saved so many lives in the OR or in the OBGYN office. That just comes off as really arrogant, even though if all that is true and you mean it with good intentions, it just comes off differently over text, and a lot of people can take that, I know, kind of offensively. I think that'd be pretty awesome if I read that and I'd be impressed in one interview, but 99.9% of other people will think that's kind of arrogant. They think you kind of know it all, or you think you're a hot shot. So just kind of avoid being a hero. And then again, you want to avoid also being the victim. It's not a pity party. It's one thing to talk about negative experiences you've had in your life and how you overcame that, and how you want to be a PA so you can help out other people. But if you don't include that in your horrific experiences you had in life, then it just kind of turns into a sob story. And even though it's very sad, there's nothing in the essay that's talking about why they should bring you into the program for an interview or why you'd be a good PA. So you really want to limit or avoid just kind of painting yourself as the victim. But if that truly goes into your story as being a PA, your journey, then include that, but only really limit it to just a little bit. Again, you want to be kind of short and sweet, to the point, and you want to spend more time writing about how you overcome those bad things that's happened to you in life and how you grew from that and how you can use that to help out your patients or just other people in medicine and medicine overall. Lastly, you don't want to have too many editors. When I first wrote my first personal statement, I had way too many editors, and what this does is everyone has different opinions, and when you get all these different opinions, you kind of lose confidence in yourself and what you wrote and the focus of your essay, and your essay turns into this whole conglomeration of everyone's opinions, and it totally removes you from out of the picture, and it removes all kind of personality from you. It kind of takes away from the story you're trying to tell, because everyone kind of wants to, on a subconscious natural level, kind of throw themselves into the mix. And so the more editors you have, the less you that is in your paper, and the more of these other people who don't really have a solid, cohesive idea, structure, format for your personal statement. So you just want to have a couple, like 3 max. Reach out to a professional to read your essay and to give you some pointers, but really limit it, and don't lose confidence in yourself or lose focus on the overall message you're trying to tell in your personal statement. So that is the structure of how you can write an amazing personal statement, and then the big don'ts of what to avoid. That's really it, guys. There's not a super detailed plan of write this, then that, then this, then that, then this, then that. It's really just a structure, it's a skeleton, it's a format. I gave that to you. You need your theme, you need your hook. Write about how you got introduced to the PA profession and why you want to be a PA specifically, and then you're going to talk about some experiences you've had which prepare you for PA school and which would make you a good PA, and then you're going to talk about what makes you different for the school you're applying to, what makes you different as a PA, and what makes you different towards medicine. What can you contribute that's different, that's missing, an issue that you can fix, that you either experienced or that you just saw or know of. And then lastly, I'm going to wrap all that up in your conclusion, make it into a nice little box, a little present. Give it to the admissions committee, so when they open it, they think you are badass too. Leave me a comment if you got any questions. Reach out to me anyway. Subscribe to the channel so you're kept up to date with all the juicy information I'm dropping to help you get into PA school.